Good singing. So good to have you here with us. It's good to have you joining us online. Thanks for watching. I know there's a lot of people that are traveling this weekend and quite a few people home sick. And so, our hearts and thoughts go out to you there. But we are all one in the church. And so whether you're watching here or online, we're together. It's good to have the Eldridge family back. It's good seeing you guys and the little ones. So it's good to see you. It's encouraging. And so I want to talk a little bit this morning about taking a leap. Isn't that a cool picture? That's me, yes. Someone threw me just at the right time. No, just this idea of taking a leap from one place to another. Have you had to do that from time to time in your life? Maybe choosing a career, starting a new job. There's many examples. Getting that extra hot sauce on your meal, whatever it may be. You make that decision, and we make that decision spiritually. We do that. Not just when we give our lives to Jesus in baptism, but also throughout our lives and the way we approach life and what we do. So I want to talk about that a little bit this morning. But first, I just want to show this video about our involvement board one more time. We're going to have this board up through next week. Okay, after next week, we're going to take it down, not the board, but everything on the board, the involvement stuff. You can always sign up whenever you want to, just let us know. But we'll probably put this up periodically, maybe a few times a year, maybe in January is what I'm thinking right now. But we're going to take it down next week, so just want to encourage you guys to be involved, so you can watch this one more time. Hello, and welcome to our involvement board. Have you thought about what kind of ministry to get into? And if you want to get in ministry, you just want to know more about it and what is expected of you. Well, this is so good about the involvement board because you can come here and read about a ministry and see what you need to be able to do in order to be involved. For example, I'm going to read the encouragement team, and you have these different topics here: outreach, worship, adult, children, and teens. So with the outreach, I'll read the encouragement team. Description: sometimes we need that extra pick-me-up. We are all encouragers. This job will focus on it even more so that we can encourage other people for a short period of time. You can send cards, Facebook wall posts, etc. The sky is the limit. Time commitment: 15 to 20 minutes per day for 1 month. Requirements: greeting cards, getting stamps from the church, a computer to send messages. And if that is appealing to you for a 1 month time, then you come by here. Each section has a little pail, and you can pick a little card. And so this one has all of these options under outreach: missions, local outreach, and so on. And so you would get this card and check off all the boxes that you have interest in. For this one, the encouragement team, check off that box, put your name, phone number, and email, and we'll connect that to the appropriate person that oversees the ministry, and then drop it right here so we can get it to the appropriate person. This is a great way to get you involved and help spur on our ministries. Thanks for being involved. By the way, you can just take the card home and think about it and decide to sign up later. Thanks. All right. So hopefully that's just a little bit to remind you about the board, and you can still sign up. You can take all the cards that you want to think about, take those home and think about it and decide later. So thanks for reading this passage, Kirk, and love seeing you and your dad recently. And it's good seeing him. You drove him here. It's good to see him. And I know this is a difficult time for a lot of our older members that can't get out. This past Friday, a couple days ago, I did the funeral for Willie Sayer. I don't know if you saw my email about that. So it's good to meet her children and be able to reach out to them some. And so we know and we have full confidence that she's with the Lord and with her husband Elmer. So it's good. So I want to reread the first part of this passage, verses 4 through 7. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I would say rejoice. Let your gentle spirit be known to all men. The Lord is near. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And so I've used this passage before. I want to start it with this and go into Psalm 34 in just a little bit. So, of course, rejoice in the Lord always. Not just in the good times, but also the bad times, the struggling times, the times where the future is a little bit unknown. I was messaging with a friend of mine last night. He had some questions on Facebook, and I was messaging with him. And I told him, in one comment, I don't know what the future is, but I know who holds it, right? Sometimes that's where our hope needs to be. God, I don't know exactly how each day is going to play out, but I know you're in charge. That gives us great comfort, doesn't it? And we can rejoice about that. Maybe you don't know the plans for you, your family, or how the church is going to play out, but you know that we win in the end. It's neat, isn't it? It's almost like a movie that's played backwards in some ways, that the ending's already has been finalized in that Jesus won by dying on the cross. So everything else is just playing out. So we have so much to rejoice. And just to let you know, the Lord is near. Now, when it's written like this, when it says the Lord is near, there's two different ways you can interpret that, can't you? Of course, one, the Lord's near in that time. He is, of course, one day closer than he was. And some think he's very close to coming back. We don't know. But also, he's near us. Don't you believe that he is here with us right now? As we know, whenever 2 or 3 of us gather, then we know the Lord is here amongst our presence. And that's so encouraging, isn't it? That he is near us. He's near us when we come together. He's near us in our hearts and our spirits. And it's good to have the powers back, and I know they watched online as well, but it's good to come together in person, isn't it? And there's just something special about actually seeing the smiling faces and being together physically. But I know there's times when we can't. So the peace of God will guard your hearts. And I know not just because of sickness, but I know our country's going through a difficult time. And so the peace of God guarding your hearts, and you may think, what is the peace of God? How can I have God's peace when there's so much questioning things going on in our country and in our health? Well, obviously, the peace of God is not dependent on government. Whew. Aren't you thankful? Yeah, it's not. Peace of God that we have is that God is in control of the great spiritual things of life. Right? Imagine going to an amusement park and being frustrated with one particular ride, but the overall park is very well done. Okay? So, this is a little disappointing part, but you go to another place that, yes, it's good. I kind of see life in that way. I know the overall life, everything's taken care of by God. But yet there may be little hitches and glitches along the way because things happen. Life here, this world is broken. But our God, spiritual life, is perfect in every way. So that's encouraging. So that gives me peace, and I think gives us all peace, that even though through difficult times, we can have great peace. So don't let the troubles of this world get you down. And I think it's good for us to be reminded about this constantly. Because people's bodies are going to fail. Someone mentioned this to me this week. Says, I don't want to grow old. I was like, well, what's the other alternative? Die young? I don't want to do that. What's wrong with growing old? What's wrong with growing in wisdom and getting closer to God and being a wonderful example? Nothing. And usually when people say, I don't want to grow old, is they don't want the difficulties that come with old age. Right? And some people will say, well, I don't want to see troubled times. Well, who does want to see troubled times? But you know what I want to see is how God redeems us. I want to see how God brings us through difficult times. I want to see how God is glorified even though times may be difficult. And we can be cheerful and joyful about that because we know He will. How many times were the Israelites struggling? How many times were they put in a difficult place? And for the faithful, they were not disappointed. That's so encouraging. So many before us have gone through the difficulties that we are going through today. So when you take this leap of faith, this jump, you're really leaving the place of complete understanding in this world, having everything counted on and assured, and you're leaping to a place that you haven't really gone before. Let's say that place you jump into, you've never actually been there yet. And so when you take a leap up like this, and you've never jumped and stood on that rock before, what kind of questions would you have? Is that rock stable? Is there a crack I see over there? There's a lot of these questions I think people have spiritually. Yes, if I make that leap of faith, if I jump like this, do I know that it's going to be stable there? That is what is so wonderful about God. He is our rock. He is stable. He is founded on everything good. Something else that helps us is if you could see this and know that 5 people jumped ahead of you and they landed safely. That would help greatly, wouldn't it? Well, Matthew's over there. Susie's over there. I can do it. And I want to let you know, as you stay strong and faithful, you are jumping here and other people are seeing you jump and landing safely. Okay? But in that time when you're in the air, I know it can be fearful. The thing is, most of our life is kind of spent in this time in the air. Because we don't really land until we get to heaven. But we know that rock will not give way once our feet touch it. I just want to encourage you with that. And that kind of picture, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's perfect for what I want to tell you guys. So look at here, verse 8 and 9 as we continue. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is a good repute, if there is any excellence and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Once again, the God of peace will be with you. So you choose what to dwell on. No one forces you to choose what to dwell on. You choose what to dwell on. When you pick what show to watch at night, you choose what to dwell on. What book you read, who you call and talk to, you choose what to dwell on. Now, there may be some forced things that you have to dwell on that may not be pleasant at the time, but you can have something that you focus on and dwell on that helps you through that, can't you? Like if you have to have a difficult operation or you have to have a difficult conversation, if you focus on God through that difficulty, then He carries you through. It's true, He will. And so, whatever is true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, worthy of praise, focus on these things. Now, when I read that list, what kind of comes to your mind? I think of a lot of wonderful good things that we can focus on. And almost all of them are from God, or really are just God. How many of you think about how God has helped you in the past when you have a difficult time in the present? I definitely do. And so that's like, as we watch people jump before us, sometimes we watch ourselves and remember how we've jumped in the past and how God has helped us. It's like, well, God was faithful back then. He's going to be faithful with me today as well. And that is true. That is true. And there's so many good honorable examples that we can think of. So focus is more than thought, though. Okay? When you focus, it's easy for us to just think that, okay, this is just in our mind. This is just mental. But what does he say here? He says, practice these things. As you focus on whatever is pure and honorable and all this, practice these things. So our focus is not just thought. Our focus is also our direction, what we're trying to do. It may be the church you choose to go to, what class you attend, the people that you help. It is what you do, actually, in your life, and not just what you think. Thinking is the part of the beginning process of it, but then that thought, God leads us into action. Because what good does it do if I think about preparing a meal for you and stop there? And I invite you over. And you're saying, okay, where's the meal? I'm ready for it. I tell you what, let me tell you what I've thought about.
And as I'm describing it to you, you get pretty excited. When do we start? Oh, I haven't done it. That'd be kind of disappointing. And you may say, well, you want me to tell you what I'm thinking now? It'd be disappointing. Thought without following through, without putting into practice, is deflating, disappointing. So we need to fulfill the good thoughts that we have. And so an example that I want to read is about King David. In 1 Samuel chapter 21, you can read this, how David was fleeing from Saul. Remember, he went and ate the sacramental bread in order for him and his troops to have something to eat because they were famished. And Saul was chasing them. And I think if you took a picture of that moment right there, and you had to choose which side to be on, and you didn't know how it ended up, you may think, I want to be on Saul's side. David's being chased. I think God's more with Saul than David. So we need to be careful that we don't take little snap judgments in one picture. It's better to understand the whole process. And God had already anointed David. And if you were just looking at the process, you may not have been aware that David was already anointed by Samuel. By this time has already happened. So Saul had already lost, even though in the moment he was chasing David. Now this plays out in a lot of times in our life. There may be something or a situation or maybe even someone chasing you, and it may have the appearance of you losing. Well, people just don't know how it plays out. You're going to be victorious with God every time, as long as you stay with God. It may not be the victory that you foresee, that you wanted, but it will be victory nevertheless. So let's look at here at Psalm 34. This is a psalm that David wrote right here at this time when he left there and Saul was chasing him. Okay? The first 3 verses says, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul will make its boast in the Lord. The humble will hear it and rejoice. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. So when he was being attacked and chased and hungry, he wrote that right there. Okay? Maybe it seemed to David that most everything was lost, maybe it was going to be very difficult. He wrote, I will bless the Lord at all times. I imagine he wrote this in a cave. Now, imagine being in a time when maybe you think maybe this is my last day, or I'm entering the last season of my life because you're being chased by whatever. Can you say, I will bless the Lord at all times? Just like it says there in Philippians, rejoice in the Lord always. Sounds very similar, doesn't it? That this Jewish person, 2,000 years before, is writing something very similar like Paul wrote in Philippians. Rejoice in the Lord always. Same God, and he expects the same kind of attitude. Rejoice always. Focus on me and praise me always, and this will help you. Okay? I will always bless the Lord at all times. And you may think, how can you bless the Lord? Now, typically when we think of blessings, we think of receiving something, don't we? So how can you bless the Lord? You can bless the Lord by not doubting, by staying faithful. That blesses God tremendously. If you are maybe, you have a plan, but the plan seems to be shaky and people are doubting it. And I have a perfect example of this right here. I remember when we redid this sign here, we had a lot of extra bricks, these huge bricks there. And I had a vision, and if you ever seen my house, the front of my house has a slope that goes down. And I had an idea of using these, because we were just going to throw them away. Have some pick them up, just throw them away. I said, I'm going to use that and build a retaining wall. So I had to come, lift them, and bring them to the house. And I had a vision how this would be. I had plenty of doubters. Even my neighbor says, I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't think that's going to be so good. I told him, it's going to be great. Okay? It's going to be great. I have it pictured how it's going to be. All right? And certain things happen. Mike helped me tremendously put it together, and it looks good. I've got a nice flower bed at the bottom, flower bed at the top. And the problem was that people couldn't see the vision that I had in my mind. I had it all played out. When I saw the bricks on the side, I saw the finished product in front of my house. Okay? Even though I tried to explain it and tried to describe it, even write it on paper, people said, I don't see how it's going to work out. How many times does this play out in our life with God? God's going, David, you don't understand. I see it. It's laid out right here. And he even explains it to me. I'm like, I just don't see how it's going to work out. Do you understand what's going to have to happen? Earth is going to have to be moved. God's like, I can do that. I can move earth. I can move mountains. My question is, will you have faith in me and let it happen? And imagine this kind of thought process came to David. How could David keep having faith in God even though Saul is breathing on his neck? Well, you got to remember, David's already been saved by what? A bear, a lion, killed Goliath. So he's jumped over this chasm multiple times already. So his only thought is, I'm ready to jump again. I'm ready for another good spiritual exercise. And that's how we need to see this. We need to see this as more spiritual exercise. Even though the world and other people may say, what are you doing? That doesn't look like it's going to work at all. And we can say, God knows how it's going to play out. He's got a vision for it. I may not understand it. I may not be able to explain it to you, but I have faith, and I will always bless the Lord with my faith. I know it may sound difficult, but we need to do that. The point is, though, are you humble to hear it? Are you humble to hear God say, this is where you need to jump. This is what you need to do. Because many people say, no, I need to understand. I've got a lot of questions. And like you've heard me say before, like you do with your kids, okay, ask your questions, but at some point you just got to do it. Now, God whispers this to us often. Okay, you've asked your questions, now just do it. Whether you truly understand everything or not is not necessary for obedience. Understanding is not necessary for obedience. Okay? I have to tell that to myself. So let us exalt His name together. Isn't it nice that we could jump together in faith as a church? We can do this together. And we do that. As every time we meet together Sunday, we show to each other, look, I'm still faithful. I'm still here. Let's keep going. It's encouraging, isn't it? Even though if we're only here one alone, we will continue to jump. But look how many we have here together, here and online. It's so encouraging. So even though that jump looks daunting, we can have faith that God delivers. Now look at these kiddos. This was trunk or treat last Sunday night. You think about what good things to focus on. Now this isn't everybody, but it's a good number of us, right? Look at those cute, scary people, right there. And you know what? We are blessed. Even though it doesn't matter what's going through, what's happening, you can find things to be blessed about, right? And you know what? There are troubling times. There is war in Armenia right now with Azerbaijan. Both sides don't want it, I'm sure. You may think, what can they be joyful about? Well, they all have kids. They all have blessings. They all eat. They have things to be thankful for. And I tell you what, this right here is a great blessing, beautiful picture, isn't it? And it's something to help us, encourage us on. And so David wrote this psalm before he was saved from Saul. Before he was saved. He didn't know how he was going to be saved, and he even had an opportunity to kill Saul, and he didn't take it. Okay? So David was very faithful. He didn't take his future in his own hands because he wanted to stay faithful with God. Well, let's read the next 4 verses here, 4 through 7. David said, I sought the Lord, and He answered me, and delivered me from all my fears. They looked to Him and were radiant, and their faces will never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear Him, and rescues them. It's encouraging, isn't it? Even though David didn't know exactly how it would play out, he knew that God would be with him and helps those who fear and trust Him. So I sought the Lord, and He answered me. Now, this happens to us all the time. And so those people that may be kind of slow to jump from the rock in faith, to jump forward and show their faith in God, we can tell people, listen, I've questioned God. I sought the Lord, and He answered me. He helped me. I've been in those times where it looked very doubtful, but God blessed me and helped me. So if He can help me, He can help you. That's encouraging. And so I pray and encourage you to have boldness and strength to talk to other people. Because if we don't talk for God, then the only people that others are listening to are people that are against God. We need to speak up. We need to speak out our opinion about God's opinion on matters. So don't live afraid of messing up. And I'm afraid a lot of people live this way. Well, I'm afraid I may mess up. I may not do it the perfect way. Well, I'm sure you won't do it the perfect way, okay? So just put that out of your mind. So the focus isn't to do it perfect. We should be more afraid of not living for God. You know, God, when we jump, then God carries us through the air. But He can't and won't make us jump. He just won't do it. He won't make you jump. That is your part. God will take care of you going through the air and you landing, but He won't force you to jump. And so really the thing to be fearful of is not living for God. To have all these days and years that you didn't live in faith. Because what a wonderful thing about coming to church and just keep coming to church. You can bring your kids to a nice, joyful things like this, even though they're not having a lot of good experiences right now. And so this leap of faith is a leap of also a good life. To the non-believers, this is foolish. Okay? That's what they would say. That's unwise. I would not do that. And they think that they're smart. And we would respond as, that's sad. Because really, you're missing out. It may be spiritually fearful, but this is true life. This is where you get to the abundant life, the life without fear. To the non-believers, it looks like fear, but to us, it's leaving fear and having hope. That's David. That's what he did. And I just want to encourage you that we can have so much success in this life if we trust God. And even though there's a lot of craziness, wild things happening in this life, God's bigger than all of it. This leap for a lot of us, really one of the first leaps that we do is taking on Jesus in baptism. In this baptistry right behind us here. If you need to do that, today is always the right time to do it. Well, perhaps you're just struggling. You need to talk about things. Me, the elders, we're always open to talk with you, and we want to encourage you and help you. Please come forward as Jonathan leads us in this song.